taking a few seconds.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
All right, okay.
Right.
So, our newest piece to date, right, that we've been doing together is the Waltz in A flat major.
Oh my.
Do you remember which opus it is by Chopin?
69.
Yes, 69, number 1, right?
Yeah.
I absolutely adore this waltz, right? It's so gorgeous and it has that goodbye quality, right? But goodbye in a hopeful way, we were saying, right? Not a goodbye in the sense that um, it's a permanent parting, right? But it's, for me, it's a goodbye, but knowing perhaps, right, someday you'll meet again. Okay, anyway, so let's see how you remember this.
Woohoo. That's it.
So last week was the first time we had ever worked on it, right? So today is the second time. And I notice how much improvement, right, you have made. So you thought about this piece after our lesson last time, right? I know you are so busy, so I don't know how you do it, but you must have done some work since our lesson, right? Last week. Because it is so much better, right? So if anybody remembers last week's video, right, when he first played this piece, it was already quite good because I only had assigned it. I told you the name of the piece, right? So you looked it up, so you learned it, from hearing whatever recording you came across, right? So it was a first playthrough with some inaccuracies, right? Not a lot, some. But we talked about it, we worked on it, and today it's like amazing, right? The difference. It's amazing, all right? So you are such a good student, Kodi. You work hard, right? And I always say that is why you are so successful, right? Because you do work hard, right? You do not take anything for granted. You work so hard. So the improvement is phenomenal, okay? Pretty much everything I said you remember, right? From the very, very first phrase, I noticed, right, how sensitive you were, okay? You were extremely sensitive to that idea of the musical side. And that was very apparent throughout, okay? So it was very mature, right? Understanding of what I was saying. And all those little things, you play with care, right? So you didn't mess up any of them, right? There were quite a few of these, things. And then the final one was different. And we were saying we cannot mess that up, right? So you worked on it, you did not mess it up, right? You were really, really good. So like I said, I absolutely do notice the difference. So you must have practiced it, right? I know, like I said, I know you're so busy, right? So I remember when we first started having lessons together, right? We saw each other more often, right? So your practice was basically when you came to the studio, right? So we basically practiced together, right? But now you are practicing on your own, right? You're much more independent now. You can do a lot of things by yourself without me. Right? And that's incredible. So there was just one little inaccuracy, okay? It was after the chromatic, right? It happened a few times, right? So it was always the E flat. Now listen, this is the E flat I'm talking about. Not that one, right? Not that one. This one. Right? This E flat is not so low. Then it becomes lower. You see? Now, so you did the E flat, the low E flat, too soon, okay? So you want to go, do you see? You want to go there, right? It sounds so good, right? But let's save it. Let's save the low E flat, right? To over there. Okay? So that particular passage happened, probably 3-4 times altogether. Just be aware, okay? Can you fix that for me?
Yeah. Ooh.
And you understand me. Thank you very much. Okay? And then, remember Chopin is such a master of repeating himself, right? I always say he and Schubert, they can have a competition, right? And who will win the gold medal? Probably Schubert, right? In terms of repetition, in terms of copying themselves, right? They recycle their own materials and they are proud of it, right? So they come up with something, they love it, they repeat themselves. Okay. Now, in the case of Chopin, right, he has two types of repeats, right? Exact repeat, like Schubert. Schubert is the master of repeating entire sections, like 3 pages worth, right? You play the impromptu. Remember this piece? Remember that piece, right? Do you still remember it?
Okay, I remember that.
We should try to see if you remember that piece, because that was a long piece.
Wow.
Anyway,
That's crazy.
do you remember, right? So Schubert is such a big repetition guy, right? He's like, I love it, so I'm gonna repeat the whole entire thing. I don't care if it's 3-4 pages long. I just love it, right? So Chopin also does that, right? Entire sections. But also Chopin is the
Oh, crazy.
grandmaster of repeating phrases, right? Smaller phrases, not entire sections, smaller phrases, but with embellishments, right? Or with subtle little changes.
Wow.
It's almost like a game, right? It's like he does these little changes and he's saying, I wonder if somebody will notice, right? And you get a point every time you notice these subtle changes. Okay, it's like who can score the highest point, right? Who can notice? It's almost like I know this is not a good example, but for example, sometimes children, they see two pictures, right? And they have to identify, right? What is the difference between the two pictures? They go, oh, this one has an extra window in the house and the other one doesn't, right? So for you, it's listening to differences, right? So I bet because your ears are so developed, right, that we can play that game, right, using sound, right? So not using pictures, but using sound. So you hear two phrases and your job is to identify, right, what the difference is between the two phrases. Because like I said, Chopin is such a master of it, okay? So the first time, so what I'm trying to say is I'm not hearing enough of the difference. So the first time he does, right? Sorry. Right? In other words, right here, right? Those two notes are even the first time. So, right? So, they are even, right? And then they are even again, right? So, and then they are still even, right? And he says, that is gorgeous, I love it, I'm gonna do it again, right? But this time he doesn't do it exactly the same way. So what's the difference? See, it's faster, right? Right? Instead of da-dum, now it's, okay? So I gotta hear the difference, right? So, right? And then the second difference is in the way he wrote. The very first time, he wrote the C as a dot, right? Dotted eighth note. So, in other words, the phrase is, that cannot be broken the first time, right? Whichever finger you use, right? That cannot be broken. But then when he repeats it with this version, guess what? The C is written as a staccato now. So now you can break. So you don't, the second time you want to go like this. See, you want to break on the C and you have a slight little rest before you go, right? So, do you see the difference? Now that's different from, right? So slight, right? But because your ears are much more developed than the ordinary person, I bet you can hear the difference, right? So the very first couple times, the emphasis is on the C. And you don't let go of it for dear life. And then in the repetition, right? The C isn't the most important, but the is more emphasized, okay? So I will try and play, right? You practice this piece, right, throughout the week. I don't have time, right, to practice pieces. But so I'll do my best, right? But I probably can't do as well as you do. But I'm gonna try and show you the difference. So, sorry, right? Not so good. I'll do it again. Repeat it, but with difference. And then we are back to the first section. Okay, so that was clear enough, right? Right? So the second time, I'll focus on the second time because basically your first time is fine. See how that's different? See, the C was shorter, right? Okay? Could you show me that, right? Could you show me that you understood what I was saying? Yeah, you do understand me, right? So it's a question of remembering it, right? You understand it, but it's like me, I gotta remember to do it too. So, right? Fast here and then jump up in the air, right? After you jump up in the air, then you start fresh. So for that reason, right, the fingering is different, right? So you can use 5 again. Since you're jumping out of that note, you can repeat your pinky, right? Fast again. Okay? Alright, so and then that's basically it, right? Now this section, oh, I noticed something very interesting. I don't know if it's just editorial or if it was actually what Chopin wrote, right?
Wow.
But in the music, I noticed after this section, sorry, I'll do it again. There is a fermata, right? But the fermata is not on the note. Okay? Usually, right, we see fermatas on the note. So the fermata is on the note, right? And you wait a while and then you play this note. That would seem pretty logical. But like I said, I actually noticed the fermata is after the note. So in other words, you don't really hold the note that long, right? But you just have a bit of a silence before you play the new section, right? So I kind of like that. I kind of like the fermata, right? After the note. So we have a little break, right? Before we play the section. Now remember, there's a little break here, right? Before you play that. Make sure you're not breaking in the wrong place. Sometimes I think I heard you play, right? Breaking here. No breaking there, right? So don't break until right there. There's the break, right? The break is this chord, not this chord. It's only in the right hand, right? So you don't hear a complete silence, right? Because the left hand is still legato, okay? Sorry. There's the break. Right there in the right hand. Do you hear it? Okay, show me the section, please.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good job. Okay, now that next section you did extremely well, so we don't need to do it again. Just be careful, right, that you are doing the break at the right place, but please don't accent it. It's too loud, right? So when you do the break, it's gentle, okay?
Wow.
Okay, good enough, right? So like I said, I was extremely impressed by how much improvement you showed. today with this piece compared to last week. Okay, and that again, I'm sure it's because you did some work after our lesson. Okay, all right. So that was a review, right? Let's do another piece that I don't think we've ever worked on, but that is also extremely well known. It's another waltz by Chopin. It's the Chopin Waltz in A minor. So this one, right, is almost the first waltz that people learn. Okay, so you've learned some of the harder ones actually, right? The C sharp minor you've learned, right? And the D flat major, right? And then we did the A flat major. So I don't think we've ever done this one, but this one is actually, like I said, usually the first one that people learn, right? When they try to learn a Chopin waltz. It's you probably have heard of it, but I don't think we ever did it. And remember, he likes to repeat himself. I like that so much. Gotta repeat it. Did we ever do that? I don't think so. Right? But it's not a very hard one, so why don't you just try and play it now?
Wow.
Go. So I didn't assign this last time, right? So you had not heard of it, or if you have, that was probably from just maybe past recitals. Probably another student played it before, right? But I did not assign it last week, so you're learning this just on the spot now.
Wow. Dang. Ooh.
Amazing, okay? Amazing. So I noticed, right? So it's very useful for me to do anything, right? Because I noticed what we can work on. So as I saw you play just now, I noticed that we want to, right, work on standard fingering for chords.
Wow.
So you know how I always say fingering is so important, right? And we want to make sure that we make the most of all of our fingers. Okay, so if there's a finger that should be used, we should use it. We should not try to avoid it for whatever reason, right? In your case, sometimes you avoid the thumb, right? You don't feel comfortable using your thumb sometimes, right? You like to use other fingers that more. You're getting better at that, of course, right? But I noticed in the beginning of this piece, right? Whenever you hit a chord, so this is a chord, right? Your instinct is to use 1, 3, 5. Right? Finger 1, 3, 5. And that is the perfect choice, of course, for root position chord. So this is a root position chord. So finger 1, 3, 5 is absolutely the best. But you were using that fingering basically everywhere, right? So whenever you have a chord to play, your instinct is to choose finger 1, 3, 5.
Wow.
What I'm trying to say is it is necessary, okay? And that's why I call it standard fingering. It is necessary to sometimes use finger 1, 2, 5. Not 1, 3, 5. Like where?
1, 3.
This chord. See? That's it. Now you didn't want to though, right? Your instinct was to use 1, 3, 5 again, right? Now that is not standard, right? Pretty much nobody would do that, right? Because it's not logical, right? You're stretching between 3 and 5 here. You should use 2 and 5. And then you should let the stretch happen between thumb and the second finger. Because the thumb and the second finger are already naturally stretched out, right? See this gap? It's already naturally bigger. So 1, 2, 5. Everybody will use 1, 2, 5 here. Okay? So do not use 1, 3, 5. And then, of course, this is 1, 3, 5. So if you have that combination, you should use 1, 3, 5. How about the next one? The next one should be 1, 2, 5 again. There you go, right? So ask yourself, right? Should I use 1, 2, 5 for this chord? Or should I use 1, 3, 5 for that chord? So root position, always 1, 3, 5. Second inversion. So this is called a second inversion chord, right? You know how we learned these words in when you did the technique, right? Root position, first inversion, second inversion. Remember, you had to know those terminology, right? When you did the exam. So a second inversion chord is always 1, 2, 5. Okay, so do not use 1, 3, 5 there. Okay, and then in this piece, right? He uses a lot of dominant seventh chords. Now, you know what's a dominant seventh chord, right? A dominant seventh chord consists of 4 notes. So, this is a dominant seventh chord in C major, right? Or on G, right? It's a dominant seventh chord built on G. And he also uses a lot of the dominant seventh chord of A minor, which is the key of this piece. So, that will be built on E. Remember, dominant means, right, the 5th note, so you have to go to the 5th note before you build it. So there are many dominant 7th chords in the left hand. However, right, he doesn't use all 4 notes. So when it's a dominant 7th chord, technically you're supposed to have 4 notes, right, just like I played, and just like we played. Remember, we played technique, right, this kind of thing, right? We did so many of that, right? So technically, dominant 7th chords do have 4 notes. But, right, in this piece, and many composers do that, right? Instead of giving us the full 4-note chord, right, which is a little bit thick, they only use 3 out of 4. So they only choose, right, either those 3 or those 3. So they don't use all 4, do you see? And it's a very subtle difference, right? Whether it's this one or that one. And Chopin doesn't make it easy for us. Sometimes he repeats it. So 2 of them, right, are the same. So they're both the same one. So the D was left out, right? So sometimes he does that, but then sometimes he does this. Oh, do you hear it? So that one and this one are different. So this one here, he does. The left hand is different. You hear it, right? And that's so hard to tell just from one hearing, right? So you didn't catch that earlier, but it's because like the difference is incredibly small, right? Especially when you're playing with the right hand. It's very hard to notice that tiny little bit of a difference. Also because, of course, I try to play the left hand so soft, right? I'm trying to play the left hand gently so you can hear the melody more, which is what we are supposed to do. So because of that, right, you also didn't pick out the difference. But like I said, I'm bringing this to your attention, right? Different. Okay? And then same goes with the one where he does the dominant 7th chord on E, right? So that's the full chord, but he doesn't use all 4 notes. He sometimes uses these 3 and sometimes these 3. And he switched the order. You see, earlier we did the 5-3-1 followed by the 5-2-1. So you would think, right? That's the order, right? Do the 5-3-1 first, followed by the 5-2-1. But no, he switched it, right? So it's 5-2-1 first, followed by the 5-3-1. So now if you think about it, right? It actually has a very good reason. So how do we know, right, which one to choose? Well, you see, the missing note is in the right hand. So he does know his music theory, of course, right? So this is the full dominant seventh chord, right? In the first chord, he doesn't play the G sharp. He uses these three notes. Why? Because the G sharp is in the right hand. So he decided not to repeat the G sharp, right? So the G sharp is in the right hand, and now the B, right, that is missing in the left hand is in the right hand too.
Wow.
So you see, they complement each other, right? If you add the right hand note to the left hand note, the chord, I mean, you have your full dominant seventh chord. So he didn't just leave out a random note for no reason whatsoever, is what I mean, right? So the G sharp was missing because it's in the right hand now. Now the B is missing because it's in the right hand too. So it's just the perfect reason, right? So here he left out the G sharp. So no G sharp. Why? Because you just heard it. You just heard the G sharp, so he feels you don't need to hear it again. Now, oh, no G sharp. Why? Because it's in the right hand. In fact, it happens 2 times, right? There's 2 G sharp here. So he feels like he doesn't need to give you G sharp in the left hand, and then he gives the G sharp in the left hand, but not the B in the left hand. Why? Because the right hand is doing the B already. Oh, the G sharp is missing. Why? Because you just played it. See? So if you think about that, right, then you know, that makes it easy to remember, right? Whether you should pick this version or that version. Okay? Now there are probably going to be exceptions, right? Later we'll find out. But so far, that's basically according to, right, me. I think that's what's going on in his head, right? We don't know for sure. It could be pure coincidence, right? But I hope that helps you to figure out which one has the G sharp, which one has the B. Okay, and then what happens after that section? Remember, he's a master of repeating his own material, right? He says, let's play this again. But let's do something different. Right? We've already heard that so many times. We're gonna do something different. Repeat this section. Okay, your turn.
Wow.
Good job. and then we just have one final section left to learn, right? But this one comes very easy for you, of course, right? Like I said, it's his easiest waltz, right? Actually, his easiest waltz is not called a waltz, although the definition of easy, of course, is very subjective, right? And a lot of times in music, right, things may be technically very easy, right? But it doesn't mean that they are easy to perform, right? Sometimes the notes are easy, but the meaning behind the notes are so deep, right, that it takes a lifetime to really understand, right? To be able to play them, right? So well, right? To kind of do justice, right, to the intention of the composer. In other words, so poetic, right, that you can't just play the notes without understanding, right, the kind of the meaning behind them. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is, right, it appears, of course, right, this is very easy for you. But I did notice again, right, one thing that I had mentioned earlier. So we were saying, remember, when you have these chords, you should think about either 1, 3, 5 or 1, 2, 5, right? Which one you should be doing in the case of the dominant 7, right? Which 3 notes to choose. So there's this one particular chord, this one right here, right? Right? Play this measure for me. Oh, you see, you broke the rule, right? What rule did you break? Oh, it's better, but it's still not the one I want.
Wow.
So what could you possibly do now? Can you try one more time, right? How else can you play that? I didn't like the first way you played it, so you changed it. So it was better, but I still didn't like it. So can you show me what other possibility there might be?
Wow.
Oh, you are so smart. You understand me. I can't believe it, right? I cannot believe how well you understand me.
Oh
right?
my gosh.
Not everybody understands me, but you understood exactly what I meant, right? So
Wow.
I don't know if anybody can notice what he did differently, but basically, right, you were doing that chord with 5, 3, 2, and I did not like it one bit, right? Why? Because that's breaking the rule, right? What rule? The rule of not using the thumb. You were avoiding the thumb there, right? That makes no sense to me. Use the thumb, right? So then you use the thumb, but you chose 5, 3, 1. Oh, wrong choice, right? It's a 1, 5, 2, 1 for sure, because this gap is already big, right? And remember, that's a second inversion chord, right? What did I say earlier? Second inversion chords are 1, 2, 5, right? That is the standard fingering, right? So you avoided the thumb because it's a black note. So you felt uncomfortable, right? But remember, that's one of the things we've been working on a lot, is that the thumb can play black note, right? Why do people feel the thumb cannot play black note? Because that is not entirely untrue either. Thumb does not like to play black note when you are playing scales, right? So when we play scales, any scale, right? Thumb does not play black note, right? Because scales, you need to play so many notes in a row. If you put thumb on black note, it's very inefficient to continue, right? Because the black notes are higher up, right? They're on a different level. So when we do scales, the thumb does not play black note.
Wow.
But that doesn't mean the thumb never plays black note, right? When we play chords, right? This is a chord. Absolutely thumb can play black note, right? So never ever think thumb does not play black note. And in your case, right, because the thumb is kind of far away from other fingers, right, and it's shorter, your instinct is to kind of like leave it out, right? Leave it out at all costs. If I don't need to use my thumb, let's not use my thumb, right? That's kind of what your instinct has been, right, throughout your life. Well, we are trying to, of course, right, build standard patterns, right? So this is the standard pattern for this chord. Okay, 5, 2, 1. Okay, not 5, 3, 2. Okay, that's too stretchy. So 5, 2, 1 for that chord, please. Okay, good, and you did, right? So anyway, it took you. You did one. I said I don't like. You did another one, which was an improvement. I didn't like, but then the third one, you completely got it. So you definitely understood what I meant. Okay, final section. We are back to the opening again. So we appear to be going in circles a little bit. So he says we gotta end the piece. We can't just keep going in circles forever. And that's the final part. Okay? Turn.
Wow.
Good job. Good job, right?
Wow.
Only one hearing, of course, right? Okay, so, there was one chord that made me smile.
Made me smile.
Do you know why it made me smile?
Wow.
Because it showed me, right, how mindful you are. You know what that means?
Dang.
Right? Being very mindful, right, is very important when it comes to music practice. If you're mindful about your practice, you can be very efficient, right? You can get a lot of things done. So some people can practice, but in a very mindful way, right, for an hour,
Wow.
but they get a lot accomplished, right, in that hour. Now, if you are not mindful, right, you could be practicing for 2 hours, 3 hours, or even 5 hours, and even though it sounds like a lot of time, right, you don't get the same amount of things done, right, as the person that is very mindful. Okay, so being mindful means being very aware, okay, of what you're doing and reflecting, right, self-reflecting what you just did, right? In other words, being your own critic, right? So you are reflecting by yourself what you just did and saying to yourself, was that right? Am I supposed to do that? Did I do something that I was not supposed to do? Did I break any rules? Right? So there was one chord that showed me how mindful you were. So it made me smile. Do you remember which one? I think it was this one, right? At first you used 1, 3, 5. Then you're like, oh no, it's not 1, 3, 5. I broke the rule. It needs to be 1, 2, 5. So what did you do? You corrected yourself, right? So you did, oh no, bad finger. Then you did 1, 2, 5, right? So in that second chord, right, you immediately switched it, right? So that made me smile because that showed me, yeah, he's thinking, right, in his head, right, what I just said, right? In other words, you are always listening, aren't you?
Dang.
Right? You are always listening and absorbing, right? And internalizing, right? What is around you, right? And you don't forget, right? So I was happy to see that, right? Okay, so can you put it together?
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Can you play this whole waltz?
Yeah. Woo. That's it. Woo.
Amazing.
Wow.
Right? Amazing. It's like putting this jigsaw puzzle together, right?
Wow.
So we learned it in sections just today, right? And I did not play the complete picture for you in the end, but in your mind, right? You put it together and it was amazing, right?
Amazing.
There were some dominant seventh chords that weren't correct, right? So instead of choosing these three notes, you chose these three, right? So this, at the end of this part, right? Sorry. This one, right? Choose these three. Why? Because he just gave us the G sharp. Remember? We already heard G sharp. That's right. Okay, that's what you wrote. Okay, thank you. Okay, but they were very small, right? And most of them you did choose the right ones. Okay, so this particular waltz, right, does not have a number, right, in terms of the opus number. Remember, the C sharp minor was this one, right? Was opus 64 number 1, right? And then you learn opus 64 number 2, and then opus 69 number 1, right? The A flat, the goodbye one. So what is the number? What is the opus number for this one? Do you know?
Oh my gosh. Opus number. Oh my gosh.
So they all should have a number, right?
Number.
The catalog number, right?
Wow.
This one is called opus posthumous.
Opus posthumous.
Do you know what that means?
What?
Well, so it's not a number, it's a word, right? Opus posthumous, right?
Opus posthumous.
Means it was published, right, after his death.
Wow.
So posthumous means after the composer died.
Wow.
So it was not published during his lifetime, right?
Dang.
It was published after he passed away, right?
Oh my gosh.
So why would that be, right? Well, two reasons. One, he didn't like it. He didn't like it enough to publish it, right? Or it's a joke, of course, right? Or maybe he meant to go back to it, right? Maybe he wrote it and then he put it aside, right? It was just like a draft, and he meant to go back to it to make it into a bigger piece.
Wow.
Like sometimes he just gets an idea, right? So he wrote it down, he put it away, thinking someday he's gonna go back, right? To make the piece into a bigger, longer, grander, whatever piece, right? So he meant to revisit the piece, but he forgot about it, or he didn't get a chance to, right? So that's another reason. Or, like I said, another reason could be it just got lost, right? Maybe he put it aside and then it just got lost, or he forgot about it, right? And then after he died, right, people found it. Right? Many pieces are like that. Many pieces, they were not published at, when the composer was alive because nobody knew about it, right? And then many years later, right, somebody somewhere, right, found this autograph, go, oh my goodness, this was written by Chopin or whoever, right? And it's a grand little piece, right? Okay, those two words don't make sense. It's a good little piece, I should say, right? And we should publish it. People would love to play it. So then they published it, okay?
Wow.
All right, so this was one of the posthumous waltzes, right?
Posthumous.
So as soon as I thought about that, right, I'm like, oh, Kodi also learned another waltz that was posthumous by Chopin.
Posthumous.
Do you remember which one?
Oh my gosh.
And we learned it.
What the heck?
So this is your assignment this week, right? We learned it, but I don't know if you remember all of it or if we actually learned all of it.
Wow.
I definitely remember learning the beginning of it, and I'll give you a hint. That one. Remember that one, right?
Yeah.
So that was another waltz by Chopin in E minor, and that was posthumous too, right?
Wow.
And that one definitely is way harder, right? Than this one, right?
That's crazy.
So that's your assignment this week, right? The
Wow.
waltz in E minor, posthumous by Chopin.
Wow.
Do you know which one I'm talking about?
Oh my gosh.
Can you play the beginning? Because we worked on the beginning, I remember, right? And it was not easy, right? I can't even play anymore. And then, right? If you remember at least the introduction, we have a few minutes.
Yes.
hard, right? Okay, so when you look this one up, like I said, there is no actual number, right? You can't say opus what number, but if you look for E minor waltz posthumous, right? POSTH, right? For yep, for abbreviation, then you'll find it. Now, what is the challenging about this piece? Like I said, I don't even remember it myself. I gotta find the music.
Wow.
E minor
E minor. Oh
waltz.
god. Waltz.
Uh,
Dang.
E minor posthumous. Okay, I found it. All right, so
Dang.
what is tricky is you have to have good fingering. Right? If you don't have good fingering, you have no chance. Playing that, right? Successfully. You're gonna get stuck, right? So what is good fingering? 2-1. Right? So black note is 2, go to 1, and then 2-5-3-1, 2-1. So it's 2-1-2-5-3-1, but it's not 2-1-2-5-3-1 forever. Some of them are 2-1-2-5-4-1, right? Depending on the interval. So this is 5-3-1, this one's 5-4-1, so it's different, right? So 2-1-2-5-3-1, 2-1-2-5-4-1, 2-1-2-5-3-1, 2-1-2-5-3-1, 2-1-2-5-4-1, 2-1-2-5-3-1, 2-1-2-3-5. Release and then go to the top. Okay, so that's got to be practiced, right? Very systematically, so that you do not end up hesitating, right? Because you do not want to sound like wait for a second, right? You don't want to do that, right? So right, okay, and then the left hand, 2 notes, 2 notes, 3 notes, right? So roll it 5-3-1, and then 5-3-2-1, 4 notes, 5-3-2-1, 4 notes, right? Now you cannot possibly play them together, and Chopin doesn't want you to anyway, so you can roll it. Now how do I roll it, right? Yeah, I roll 5-3-2-1, right? But you have to end up together, right? On the thumb. Right? So you try to end up, right, with the thumb of the left hand on the first note of the right hand. I'll do slow motion. It's been a long time since I played this piece. That's just such a grand opening, right, to this waltz. So it has a very brilliant kind of a feel. Okay, well, that should keep you busy. Okay, this is the much harder waltz, and it's fast, right? And from memory, we did the first bit quite in detail, but it was so long, right? I don't think we ever did get to the final section, so this will be a good opportunity for us to work on this piece. Okay, you did great as you always do. Okay, and it was a pleasure to see you.
Oh my
See you
god.
next time. Okay, bye bye.
Bye bye.